if you were to set up a set of guidelines for people in the wealth space as like a, hey, this is what you should, set up to do to make sure that you're in an okay spot and you don't end up in that position, what would be those guidelines that you would kind of guide people toward?
So that's really great. So let me give you a little bit more of my background. So my dad and my mom, they separated. And so, I told you what my mom did, but my dad was like, I want to say he was like a counselor. Like, a lot of you not. I've seen foreign dignitaries come to my father. I've met them in his house, foreign dignitaries, and like seek counsel from him. He passed away in 2013, and I got so many calls from just foreign dignitaries saying, "Your dad saved my life." Right.
Wow.
So when at my mom's house, I was the youngest of five, but my other four siblings had a different father than I did. So I had like the party house, right? This is where all of my siblings they partied. Now my mom, bless her soul, she was a very straight up church going woman. That's what she did. And I think that was how she sought her solace from the craziness that was happening in the house, right? So she went to church constantly. So what then happened for me is when my dad came back into my life when I was around 8 years old, he took me to his house and he lived a very wealthy lifestyle. And going to his home was like going to Disney World every weekend. But my
Yeah.
dad said something very important to me that I hold as the secret to my success. And he said, "Son, at this house," he said, I know the house that you come from." He said, "But at this house, we read books at this house." My dad was a super avid reader. And I mean, he could go through like a book. He was like a speed reader. He could go through a book extremely fast and remember all of the concepts and principles that the book taught, and then he would begin to live by those principles. So I would be at the house, at his house, and my favorite thing to do was on Saturday mornings watch Black Belt Theater because I was like a in the martial arts, right? So I'm watching Black Belt Theater, but I'm looking over and I see my daddy just has a book all the time. So I was like, I wonder what he's reading. So I started picking up some of the books and I started reading the books and asking him about, the content. And we were getting to very spirited debates over the contents of the book. And I'm talking about this isn't like Three Blind Mice. This is about, the global shift of the continents and what caused the global shift of the continents and from a geology standpoint, like where certain elements come from. Like we were having those types of spirited debates. And what it did is it leveled me up to a point where when I went back home and I was talking with my siblings, it was strange to them. They were like, the way he's talking, the way he's acting, he's here talking about different herbs and Chinese medicines and teas. And they could care less about any of that, right? The only thing they wanted to know was where the beer was going to come from, right?
Hmm.
So the secret to my success is everybody has to begin this process of self and re education because where I came from, the school system did a poor job of actually educating you, right? And what you need. You know, who decided that for me to understand the area of a right triangle, right? And what the hypotenuse of a right triangle, what does that have to do with me being safe going from my high school in the afternoon to home, right? What they should have been teaching is your Miranda rights, right? Like
Hmm.
nobody was teaching anything of what I would call value, and it's not the school system isn't meant to teach you value. it's meant to teach you to become a worker, right? So a factory worker. Well, there's no more factories. So what is the educational system doing? And that's why I've heard stats that say that we're 27th in the world in education. Some stats say that we're 52 in the world in education. Like there's a recent report that says that there is no school in Baltimore, Maryland, in Baltimore, that the students are on grade level mathematically. No student,
Wow.
100% of the students are not on grade level mathematically. What? Is that the student's fault? So, I was so happy and blessed that my dad put the desire in me to want to self educate. So I think
Definitely.
that's the first step. Everybody has to go do something like read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Everybody has to go read, and this is a shameless promotion, right? But go read Profiting from Non-Performing Mortgage Notes, right? So that you can begin to understand how the system is working and how you fit in it, right? Understanding that if somebody says, well, I want to be in real estate. Well, if you're going to be in real estate, there's something called the uh, pyramid, the hierarchical pyramid of who's where on this chart. At the bottom, you're having like wholesalers, bird dogs, and real estate agents that only broker transactions. They don't own the home, they don't own the money. They're just in the middle facilitating the transaction. Well, next you got like the homeowners, you got the landlords, you got the commercial developers, right? These are the people that actually own the property, but they still don't have the money. But then at the top of the pyramid, you have private money lenders, you have note investors, you have people that own funds and real estate investment trusts, and then above that you have the bank chairman or the Federal Reserve. Where do you want to be on this ladder, right? Do you want to be at the bottom or you want to be at the top? You can choose, but choose wisely. And the only way you can choose is by just simply having education. And you can always find whatever you need, especially with everybody walking around with a modern day computer in their hand.
Yeah, amen to that. I really want to second that and lean into what you said there, and iterate another way of looking at it is that part of your success and what I believe my success as well. I didn't have one of my parents being the successful, wealthier individual in the household, but I did have extended family that I got to be around that had a decent amount of money, and through that perspective, it showed me like the differences of what was done in my household and other households versus like that household, right? So just those two succinct places, and I found first and foremost that they didn't have jobs, they had businesses, which was a huge key difference. And then what they did with their money was another big one. But really, where I'm trying to go with this is the idea of like your environment, right? Your environment is what holds the impact. And like you said, to iterate with the modern day computer, your phone, your laptop, whatever, you're able to curate an environment digitally where you can consume the kind of information that will set you up properly, whether it's through podcasts like this or books like yours, Ahmed, and just following the people who are actively pursuing those kinds of outcomes and results. And so I highly encourage everyone who's listening to take it upon themselves to train their social media algorithms in a way where they're surrounded by those people. Just as a testament to how powerful it is, 4 years ago, I started doing that. Maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago, I started doing that. Now here I am actually being able to have these interviews with individuals like Ahmed. So this is fantastic. So if anybody wants to get a hold of your book or take your challenge, where is it that they're able to find you and maybe interact with what you have going on?
So if someone wants to read the book, they can go to Mortgage Notes with an S book.com. That's where we house the book. And for the challenge, they can go to buildmorewealthchallenge.com.
I love it. If you're interested in learning more about the tidbits and advice that they have, then you should consider subscribing to the 2 Comma Club newsletter, where you'll get daily updates and advice on the podcast and the things that we are learning from the individuals who have made at least $1 million. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com or click the link in the description down below and subscribe.